Okay, welcome back. We are going to start again here, the module 1.2, Introduction to Health and Safety. Now, we are going to start the session again, so please settle down. If you are dealing with your WhatsApp, Facebook, or any other matters, please stop all those things and start focusing now. Right. Let's see what we studied in the earlier segment. Why should we manage HSE? It's very clear. The HSE management system helps to ensure business conducted in a safe, healthy, and environmentally responsible manner. This is the most important thing in health and safety management. Business, when you are conducting, you have to conduct in a healthy and a safer manner without polluting or damaging the environment. That is the first most important thing. Then while doing that, you have to prevent incidents, injuries, illnesses. Now the problem is many of the businesses, they are starting the business without thinking how to attend to these things or how to prevent these things before it happens. This is where the biggest issue is. So this is part of your planning. Enable people to communicate and people and communities to be safe and thrive, which keeps the business healthy. So remember, when it says people and communities, we are talking about IPs, interested parties, the people who are working inside, who are supporting your business, and who are living outside and enjoying the environment surrounding your business. So the most important thing is the belief that all incidents are preventable. If you don't believing in that way, you will never prevent anything from happening. So the first one is to get your mindset right. And in the next segment, what we are going to study about is how to get this mindset right and how to manage the HSE or health, safety, and environmental practices in our business. So before starting, for anything we have principles. So let's see what are the principles of health and safety management. Now in health and safety, there are two components. One is the system, other one is the practicality. So when it comes to the system development, I mentioned this in our previous segment also, strong and active leadership is a must. Why? It is the leaders who runs the business. It is the leaders who wanted the business to run, and those are the people who has the authority to do any changing. So therefore, the leadership must believe that the accidents and incidents are preventable. Then comes worker involvement. This is something which is never happened in Sri Lanka to the best of my knowledge. Very, very few. Why? They think the workers are always there to follow instructions. But remember, it is the worker who perform the task at the grassroots level or at the ground level. If the worker is not involved in making decisions with regard to his own safety, it is going to be a failure. This is what I mentioned about even the previous segment. Sometimes when you go to a workplace, you see people are wearing helmets. They are wearing jackets, they are wearing safety shoes, and you expect a person to perform a job wearing a helmet, jacket, then the coverall covering him, then the protective boots, gloves, and so much of things. Just wear any of those things by yourself and see how uncomfortable it is. Now, what we are doing here is the managers, they make decisions and load the worker with so much of protective equipment without removing the hazard, without understanding how difficult it will be for the worker to perform a job while adhering to those things. So therefore, worker involvement in making decisions with regard to the safety of workers is a must. Then with the strong and active leadership plus the workers involvement, you review the risk. The risk is in most of the occasions is experienced by the workers. So unless you ask from the worker what kind of a risk you face and how do you want to solve it, you will never come up with the right solution. So remember, there are three key principles in system development: strong and active leadership, worker involvement, and risk assessment and review. Then comes to management of the system. Now once you develop the system, you have to ensure that the system will be implemented thoroughly without any issue. So what are the principles of management of health and safety? Plan. You have to have a proper plan on how to implement health and safety related practices and procedures. After that, you do it. You implement your plan and see the feasibility of it. You may try to plan to do something, But when you're trying to do it, you might encounter difficulties of doing that. So therefore, every plan you must dry run it and see the feasibility of the practical application of that one. Then check what are the things that may go wrong. Any requirement that is being specified in our plan which is not practicable, which is not easy to implement. So check on that one. Then what you do? Act. If you find any gaps, if you find any issues, please act upon that one and complete it fully, so that the practical systems what you have are actually is been loved by the workers and adhered by the workers, simply because why? The workers also got involved in doing that. So remember, these are the two basic principles on health and safety management. There are two segments. One side is going for the system development and other side is going for the management of the system. When you are developing the system, you have to have the leadership and the commitment of the leadership, then the workers' involvement in deciding how their safety should be managed, then the assessment of the risk jointly and review it jointly and come out with a plan. That is the management component now. So you came up with a plan, now you do it and see whether it is really feasible to practically apply that one. Then you check what are the gaps. You act upon to close those gaps. So if you have completed your safety management system in this manner, definitely it is doable and it will be practiced without any. Then when it comes to HSC, there are some key roles to be played by many people. Now in organizations, they think safety belongs to the safety manager. Unfortunately, it is not, because the safety is everybody's business actually. Everyone has a role to play. It's starting from authorities. Why authorities? They are the people who are setting rules and regulations. We discussed about the three components of or reasons for having HSC. We talk about the legal aspects. We talk about moral responsibilities. We talk about financial reasons. But when it comes to legal requirements, it is the duty of the authorities to see the proper legislations are in place. Why? Without the legislation, nobody can do any implementation. There's no any set standard. There's no any line drawn. So anybody can do anything. So proper legislation is a must. Then comes investors. Who's investing into business? Generally, very rarely, maybe about 25% of investors, they run the business also. I am not talking about small scale businesses, because that is not the place you are going to go after this program. After completing your graduation, you will be going for a big company. In big companies, you will see the real investors, sometimes they don't even cite the business, they stay away. But still, the investors also has a role. What is that? Provide resources, because the investors, they invest money to get a return. What is the return? That's their profit. So if they keep on spending too much on anything, they will run short of profits. So that's why generally investors are in this part of the world actually very reluctant to spend money on things. Why? Their profit is going to get reduced. But of course, as a reasonable and responsible investor, they have to provide resources to manage the business in safe manner. How safe? As low as reasonably practicable risk. That is the requirement. Then they may own the business. Now, if the investors also owning the business, they are in a little bit of a hot water. Why? We talk about the legal aspects in the previous segment and showed you how the business owners had ended up in jail, ended up in courts, ended up paying fines. As long as the investor is only an investor, he is not legally liable. But if the investor is also owning the business and running the business, then of course they are legally liable. So they have a very much bigger role to play to ensure the health, safety and environmental aspects of the business is being managed properly. Then comes employers. Who's the employer? Employer is the person who manages the business behalf of the investor. Now, if you see many of these big companies here in Sri Lanka, say as an example, Brandix, right? Brandix management is not getting fully involved with the business every day. They stay away, right? So the employers are the people who are managing the business, appointed board of directors who are running the business behalf of the investors. So in the employers, as I mentioned, they run and own the business. Then comes employees. Employees are the people who are performing the duties or jobs that have been assigned by the seniors or senior subordinates, managers, and the employer. They are the operators and workers. They are the grassroots level. Then comes safety representative. This is one of the very key jobs. The safety representative provides supervision and the representation. What is supervision? To ensure that the workers and the others are doing their job properly, and they represent the grievances and the difficulties of the operators and the workers to the managers. So in generally, safety representative is the bridge in passing instructions from the management to the workers and taking messages from the workers up to the management. If these components have been completed, you are having a fully fledged safety management system. Now, before implementing that, we should know what are the rights and responsibilities. Here in Sri Lanka, we are always prefer to talk about our rights, but very rarely about our responsibilities. Now, let's see what are the rights and responsibilities in a business. Employer responsibility. Now, this is little bit of a hurting thing for the managers and the employers of Sri Lanka, because many of these things are not happening here. But of course, this is the ILO regulations or requirements. You tell the workers how to do the job safely in a way that you can understand, and about the risk to health and safety from current or proposed working practices. Will any of our managers here in Sri Lanka will walk down to a worker and say, hey son, this is what you are going to do. You are going to climb onto this wall and do the painting. Will he ever say there is a possibility for him to lose his ladder or the scaffolding and come and land on the ground and break the neck? He will never say that. He will say, don't worry, you are on a ladder. This ladder is safe. You go ahead and work. If he asks any questions, he will say, if you have too much of questions, go and find another job in some other place. Unfortunately, this is what it is happening here. But actually, in reality, what it should be done is tell how to do the job safely in a way that you can understand and about the risk to health and safety. Maybe if I take you back to my personal introduction, maybe you'll actually not maybe, you all should recall that I told my belief is before you become a manager, you're supposed to be a worker. Before you become a commander, you're supposed to be a soldier. Why? This is the requirement. If you don't know how the job to be done, how the hell you are going to tell your worker this is how it to be done safely? So remember, it is not the knowledge, it is the requirement of the competency. That's why I told you I am a practical person. I want you all also to be practical and understand the practical aspects in managing health and safety. Okay? Then tell how any risk will be controlled and who is responsible for. Now the controlling of the risk. Now even for controlling of the risk, for a manager to understand or employer to understand the risk of a job, he should know how to do it. Otherwise he will never understand. If I ask someone to climb a coconut tree, only the person who has climbed a coconut tree will know the danger and the difficulty of it. Otherwise, for a person who's sitting on the ground or standing on the ground and looking at the coconut tree, it's just a matter of moving two hands and here the guys go up. But it is not the way, right? So remember, risk can be assessed only he knows how to perform the job. If he knows what the environment is going to look like. Then remember, if you don't have, if the employer is not having that experience, consult and work with occupational safety and health representatives and employees to protect everyone from harm. Every employer is not coming with the knowledge which I mentioned about. They are investors, they are business people, like what happened in Horana, the ammonia leak. He came and invested money into the business and he started running the business, but he never knew what the risk was. He didn't even hire or consult any professionals on that. So remember, employer has a huge responsibility. If you don't know how to identify the risk, you better get the consultation from a professional on that. Then tell how to get first aid treatments and what to do in an emergency. Can you remember? I am taking back you to our very first slides. I mentioned about the health and safety modules. Can you remember I told you we are talking about the work, first the risk assessment, then the work practices, then the emergency response. Here we are. even if you have all the best possibilities of having a good system, still something can go wrong. If something goes wrong, the first aid and the emergency care should be available. Then provide training to enable to do the job safely. It should be free of charge. If a worker is operating a press machine inside a workshop, the employer is supposed to train the person on operating that equipment safely. It is a responsibility of the employer and it should be provided free of charge. It's a requirement, right? This is about competency development. Provide and maintain equipment and protections necessary at work. What is this? Equipment and protection. Now, there are certain equipment that can prevent workers from getting hurt. Like as an example, it is always better to use a man lift rather than using a ladder to do a painting on the wall. Why? The ladder can slip at any time. But if it is a platform is very unlikely to move or shift. Then provide the protection, working at height, going into confined spaces, performing dangerous activities. Whenever any of the workers are doing this kind of things, the required equipment and the protection should be provided. This also should be coming from the employer free of charge. Then conduct health checks if they are seeing danger or ill health because of work. Now this is one of the sad parts here. I told you when it comes to health and safety, we have two components: occupational safety, occupational health. Now all the things what I mentioned earlier, they were about falling from places, getting into ditches, trapping, getting electrocuted. Those things are ending up as injuries. But how about the ill health? A person who's working in a woodworking plant will inhale so much of dust coming from the source. The people who are working in apparel industry, apparel factories, they are facing to lot of fiber and the floating dust particles coming from fabrics. The people who are working in chemical industries, they inhale lot of harmful chemicals. But nobody is going to get hurt just now. Their illnesses are going to come in some years to come. So in general, a responsible employer is supposed to conduct a medical investigation, health check every 1 year, once in every year, to all the workers to know if there is any shift or any patterns of how people get sick. If that particular sickness, what you see within the facility, is related to the work, definitely he has to take some action to prevent it from happening. Now, we are talking about employees' responsibility. Earlier it's employer, now employee. Employee is the worker. Take responsible care of own health and safety, or not to put other people at risk. Remember, this is a moral responsibility. You have to take care of yourself, because people should understand why they are working. They are working because they have a family to look after. If they get hurt, more than the person who got hurt, it is the family who's getting hurt, because they will never have a rice of plate on the table next day. So therefore, the employers must be safe, not because the factory owner is asking you to be safe, but because of the requirement of going home in the evening and being with their family, providing the basic necessities of the for the family. Okay, and also the people can't play foul, do anything risky and put other people's life into danger also. This is again a moral responsibility. Cooperate with the employer to get proper training, understand and follow the company's health and safety policies. Now the first one is about the training. It is the worker. Worker can come and tell the employer, sir, you have bought a new machine, I don't know how to use it. You have asked me to do this particular job, I am not trained on that one. Right? Not to hold a placard and say, diyav, diyav, ganiyu, ganiyu, tahadang karau. No, not that. It is not the worker's thing. Okay? Then understand and follow the company's health and safety policies. Now this is very easy, because we discussed earlier part, when you are developing health and safety practices of the organization, the employer's participation should be there. Employees' participation should be there. When they are working together, hand in hand, they will understand the policies and procedures even before they were printed. Why? The workers are getting involved. That is the whole idea of they are getting involved. for them to understand it better, because it is a system that has been developed by them. Not to interfere with or misuse those being provided for health, safety or welfare. Now the equipment that are being provided to protect and safeguard any of the workers, any of the machinery, or prevent any injuries should not be meddled around with, should not damage, should not destroy, should not alter. These are being considered as criminal offences. Now say as an example, there is a fire extinguisher in a particular place because it's risky, some risky activity is happening in that area. Someone comes and remove the fire extinguisher purposely. When the fire takes place, the fire extinguisher is not available. It can cause a huge damage. So just shifting a fire extinguisher from one place to another itself is a criminal crime. It's a criminal offense. Okay? In the same manner, the fire hoses, you are altering them. Machine guards, you are removing. Neglecting orders and the instructions given. All these things are criminal offences in the eyes of the industrial law. Then report any incidents, injuries or illnesses occurs as a result of doing the job. Even for a very minor injury, you are performing a job, you suffer a small injury, small wound. Don't ever think, right, වැඩ කරනකොට තුවාල වෙනවා තමයි. No, there's no such jobs. The employer has the responsibility to ensure health and safety of workers. Nobody is going to throw a worker into a place where he's going to get hurt. It is illegal, right? So it is the responsibility of the workers also to tell the management if the equipment were unsafe, if the procedures were unsafe, it is creating difficulties, they have to go and tell. Now comes the rights of the employees. One should know about this one also, because sometimes the management think just because a person is been employed, they can do anything and everything. Sorry, it's not like that. Work in a place where all the risks to health and safety are properly controlled. Remember, there is a thing called stop work policy. What is the stop work policy? While I am doing a job in a factory, if I feel that it is unsafe and it can hurt myself or cause an injury, I have 100% of the rights to stop the work now and go and tell the supervisor or the manager, sorry, this is a dangerous thing, I don't want to do it and it can hurt anybody. Even if I move away, someone will come and try to do the job, even he can get hurt. It is a responsibility. Right, and it's a right to stop the work, and there should be a thing called stop work policy in many of the good businesses. Stop working and leaving the area if assumed to be in a danger. Now, initially you can suspect something may go wrong, but now it is in a situation something is about to go wrong. Right? Maybe the worker is a little bit reluctant to stop the work at the initial stage, but now he should run for his life. Stop the work and get out of the place. Be consulted on matters related to health and safety at work. If you are not sure whether the company is doing the right thing, are the company managers and supervisors are looking after him in the proper way? Are the controls sufficient enough? Any worker can always consult the consultation department of the Ministry of Labour and ask these questions from them and clarify. If there's any issue, he can even lodge a complaint directly with the Ministry of Labour. If there's any concerns, please tell the employer before going to the Ministry of Labour. That should be your first eye. There's a chain of command. You start with your supervisor. If the supervisor is not listening, you go to the safety representative. If the safety representative not listening to, go to the manager. If the manager is not working, you go directly to the employer or the directors. If the directors also not listening, you can go to the Ministry of Labour without any issue. So remember, contact local authority. Actually, when I say local authority, it's the Ministry of Labour if still have health and safety concerns. So remember, sometimes if this danger is very high and if the worker is feeling that the management will not take any action onto that one, he can directly go and report it to the Ministry of Labour. And coin a trade union and be a safety representative. So which means if the workers can form a trade union, the trade union is not only for asking wages and asking for leave. Actually, the proper idea of trade union is to ensure health and safety of workers. That is the first requirement. But unfortunately in Sri Lanka it has been politicalized and it is having so many other agendas other than the safety now. Then paid time of work for training if holds a safety representative role. Any of the workers who are holding a safety representative roles, if he requires any training conducted even outside of the working premises, he should be given paid leave for that. The worker is on leave today, he's at the Ministry of Labor following a training program, but he should be paid. So many of the people who are in the holding positions in health and safety will get this opportunity to go to other places and get themselves trained. And break of at least 20 minutes if work for more than 6 hours and annual paid leave. All the employees has the right of getting this minimum leave requirements, but of course, as I told you, we are still in 1948. So 20 minutes lunch break is gone long time back, right? And also at that time it is continuous work till 6 hours. So after 6 hours only he can get 20 minutes of break. The people will die if they are going to work like this, but unfortunately this is how it is been mentioned in the initial law. But of course, thanks for the updates. Now it has been updated, so the workers are having somewhat better conditions. Then suitable and sufficient toilets, washing facilities and drinking water. This is also a legal requirement. Any worker in any status of holding any status in a business, it's not only for management who should have good toilets. Everyone must have good toilets, washing facilities and drinking water as a minimum requirement. Then adequate emergency and first aid facilities. Any worker has the right to check on any of these things and clarify that with the managements whether these things are available. Now we may, if the COVID issue die down along with the time, we may get the opportunity to visit some of the factories like my previous batches did. If you get that opportunity, we can go to these places and verify with them actually whether these things are existing in their places. Okay, right. Now, health and safety representative. Health and representative is holding a very responsible position. Represent employees generally and on matters that affect health and safety and welfare. So he's a representative of the workers, not to give their rights of salary hikes and leave and everything, but generally the safety representative is focusing on the safety. He wants to see that all the workers in the factory or in the workshop facility are safe. It is him who go and talk to the workers and are getting the feedback of their working things and the equipment and passing down the required messages to the management as I discussed earlier. So when I say health and safety, it is about the work. When I say welfare, that is about adequate lighting, toilet facilities, washrooms, drinking water, resting places, lunch breaks. Those are the welfare facilities. Represent employees when health and safety inspector or local authorities consult them. Now sometimes the Ministry of Labor officials comes to the factory. As everyone knows, sometimes, or I could say even many a times, workers are very scared to talk to officials. They can't explain themselves. So in such situations, the health and safety representative can be the link between the workers and the inspector. Then investigate accidents, incidents, near misses and other potential hazards and dangers occurring in the workplace. If something goes wrong, it is the first responsibility of the health and safety representative to rush to that area and start investigating no sooner the emergency situation is being managed. Now he is not going to start the investigation while a worker is bleeding and lying on the ground. First let the emergency response takes place. Once that is being completed, it is the responsibility of the health and safety representative to start investigating why it went wrong. Remember, I told you the whole idea of incident investigation is not to find out who went wrong, what went wrong, what system in the health and safety management procedures went wrong. That is the whole idea. Investigate complaints made by the employees about their health, safety or welfare. Sometimes the workers can come and tell their grievances or difficulties or problems to the health and safety representative. Then they can he should investigate the complaint. Then present the findings of the investigation. Now presenting the findings of the investigation, First, he will discuss the findings with the workers and then he will submit it to the management. Inspect the workplace for health and safety practices. He must ensure that the workplace is being maintained in a clean, tidy and safe manner. Then set up health and safety committee. Health and safety committee is health and safety representative or the supervisor. He will appoint responsible workers from various locations depending on the workplace, depending on the activities, depending on the geography and the layout of the workshop or the workplace. He can appoint safety representative and create a safety committee. Why it is required to have a safety committee? That is going to be the eyes and ears of the health and safety representative, because the committee will give the feedback to the representative will give the feedback to the management. Then once the committee is been set, the health and safety executive or health and safety representative will attend to the health and safety committee meetings to represent employees. He should encourage the employees to do proper work in a healthy and a safer manner. And also if there are any issues, he will pass down that message to upper management. Right. Now we are going to come to about the accidents. What really causes accidents? Is it bad people? Is it unluck or bad luck? Or is it part of the job? No. Now generally when an incident happens, there are some reasons behind it. First, someone can say, oh, my equipment is bad. The tires of the forklift has got worn out. The equipment is not working properly. This is not been designed for this kind of a job. So initially the first thing is to blame something. Maybe they will start with the equipment. Then rules and regulations. One can say, sorry, I was not taught about it. There's no such regulation in this company. I thought it is okay for me. So this is about the legal component. Then comes training and awareness. Yeah, I have been asking for from the management for me to get the training program for operating this equipment, but they never provided it. I am performing a job which I am not trained for. Remember, it is not the time of accident to mention all these things. If a worker is not familiar with the operation, he should tell that beforehand. Generally, worker will not tell, but the health and safety representative or the supervisor should ask and verify that the worker is competent, whether the equipment is safe. Is he aware of all the rules and regulations? So remember, in general health and safety culture, if a worker is suffering an injury due to an accident or incident or some mishap has taken place, the first focus is on the supervisor and the health and safety representative. Why the gap was not identified before it becomes an incident? Why the instructions was not given to the worker before he crushed his hand? So it is always remember quality of the equipment, rules and regulations, and the training and awareness is the responsibility of the supervisor and the health and safety representative to pass it down to the worker. But of course, even if you provide the best possible equipment, giving all the required rules and regulations and making them aware and giving the required training and awarenesses, still some incident can happen. No matter how good your equipment are, what rules says or how well you were trained, you still can make a mistake. Lapses, slips, those things can happen. But why? Getting the right mindset and attitude is the key. If you are thinking in a positive manner, now say your equipment is not proper, you are not trained in handling the equipment, what are you supposed to do? Are you going to operate the equipment knowing that it is dangerous and knowing that you can't operate it? Or are you going to talk to the safety representative or your supervisor and say this equipment is bad? This is the safety culture. This is the right mindset, what is required to be running in the organization. This is called HSC culture. If the culture of an organization is right, even though the equipment is not good, even though the rules and regulations were not correct, even though the training is not given, still the workers will take their own safety into their own hands. Why? Every worker must return home safely. That is the whole idea. That is the whole concept. The family members has the right to receive the worker from the workplace back at his home place in the evening or after the work. The worker also has the right and responsibility to ensure that he is safe, ensure that he is not going to hurt anybody while performing the job. The employer is having a responsibility to provide a safe workplace, provide safe and good quality equipment, provide required training and get them into the required competency levels, and provide adequate supervision so that nothing can go wrong. This is all included into health and safety culture of an organization. Right? Right. Now let's talk about what ILO, International Labour Organization, has defined about mental and physical health of workers. Workplace well-being relates to all aspects of working life. What are the all aspects of working life? Quality and safety of physical environment. The environment where you are working, is it safe? Is it meeting the required quality things? Then how workers feel about their work. Are they happy about their work? Are they proud about their work? Are they satisfied with the way they work? I'm very sure if you ask this question in many of the places, nearly 90% of the time, we are going to get a negative answer. Why? The employers are not aware of these things. And also, soon after this, I will highlight few other requirements or other situations here in Sri Lanka and why it is happening also. Then comes the working environment. How friendly are they? Are there any undercutting? Are they under work pressure? All these things are affecting the people. Then the climate at the work of the organization. How nice our work, environment is. Are the managers putting a lot of stresses on us? Are they always looking at us to give us trouble? Are you proud to work in your workplace? All these things are important to have a very good, productive and a safe workplace. Now I mentioned about these previous things, providing a good workplace, providing the required training, ensuring a good friendly environment. All these things I told, it's not happening in Sri Lanka. Very few. But actually the reality is many European countries, USA, that's entire American continent for that matter, all the developed countries, they say labor in Sri Lanka is cheap. That's why they come here and do all these businesses and other things, factories. Why? This is where the issue is. Why they are coming here? They know all these things. They know our labor is low, not because of anything, because we don't have clean environments. We don't have the required sanitation and hygiene. We don't have proper toilets facilities, lighting, drinking water, changing rooms, the lunch facilities, quality food. We don't have any of these things. And that's why our labor is cheap. If you look at a worker's environment in Bangladesh and in Amsterdam is totally different. I could say without any fear, but this is a fact. Some of the workers in Bangladesh, they are not working for a salary. They are working only for food. You give them 3 meals and that's it. They will find a piece of cardboard or piece of wooden plank or even a cloth and sleep somewhere. They will come to work next day morning also very happily and merrily. What will they give? They will give the breakfast, they will give tea, they will give lunch, they will give evening tea and dinner again, and they work for 12 hours and go home. Actually, there's no such home as such. Maybe a slum. Sometimes they sleep in streets. So the Bangladesh is having very cheap labor. You go to Kenya, you have cheap labor. You can see a lot of factories and other things are moving from Sri Lanka to those countries now. Why? The lifestyle general expectations are changing in Sri Lanka. So our labor is not anymore cheap. You can find cheaper places. India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Kenya, even Ethiopia. Now remember, just because I mentioned Ethiopia, don't laugh about it. Actually, Ethiopia as of now is economically better than Sri Lanka, unfortunately. And it's a lovely country I have been to. Very lovely country. Okay? Right. So that is about the workers' standards and the requirements. ILO, International Labour Organization, has specified very clearly the workers has to get these things, but they are not getting. ILO requirements are not a law. The law is your industrial law and the labor law. That's it. ILO requirements are always recommendations and conventions. Very rarely, unless the country adapt them into the legal system, it is not a law. Right. Now let's see why, with all these things, why should we have HSE management system? If you are having HSE management system, actually it ensures higher profitability. Why? You have good business controls, you have fine and liabilities, then you're scared of doing a mistake. Then the incidents and accident cost. If something goes wrong, your business is wiped out. If you stop that from happening, your business is going to succeed. Then the legacy and the recovery. If your name is gone, your legacy is gone, how you are going to recover it? If you have a proper health and safety management system, definitely you can see that your name, your good name and of the company and the reputation is not going to get damaged. Product losses. If there's no any incidents happening inside the workplace, your products are not going to get lost. Energy saving. You need not to keep on reproducing things. Then the effective staff. Staff is, if they are not suffering from illnesses or injuries, they will work happily. Then reputation and stock valuation. If your company is performing well in health and safety, definitely the market value, market appetite, your reputation, recognition is going to go high. Then what will happen? You will get more opportunities in the market to expand your business. So remember, this having a good HSE management system is always a very good profitable thing. I can quote examples within myself from my own business. When I was working in Sri Lanka, only 4 years, out of that 4 years, I have worked 3 years continuously in the road transport system, LPG filling plant, LPG distribution system, and the ship operation without having a single incident for 3.5 years. Not even a first aid case. First aid case is a very minor injury where you have to put a small piece of plaster, or you put your finger into your mouth and suck it 2-3 times, or wipe it on your trouser and start working. That is a first aid case. Even without a first aid case, when I was in the African sector, I managed to work 84 million man hours without a single incident. That's a record even up to date. That was good 4.5 years with over 40,000 workforce. So we worked 40,000 workforce performing one of the most difficult and the dangerous jobs in the world, that is rigging for oil, oil drilling and oil refining, oil transportation, without any incident for 4.5 years in my business. So which means the business is sustainable. Business is unstoppable. You can plan very well and it is going to generate lot of money and opportunity. Right. Now, with that, I have highlighted why we should have HSE management system. Now we have come to the end of the session for the day. If you have any areas to clarify, if you want me to repeat anything, please pick your phone and send me, prompt me. You send me a small message, right? I will discuss about that one after the session. But before that, before winding out, let's look back. What have we learned today? Every activity has a risk. You should agree with that now, even sitting on your chair. Over 2.2 million people die while at work. This is nearly the population of our country. Sorry, 1/10 of our population of our country. Then first known regulation was introduced in 1802. What is that? Health and Safety Work Act of USA. Sorry, of UK. Apologies. Then our factory ordinance of Sri Lanka came in 1942. And it's very sad, still we have not gone very far from this 1942 regulation, apart from very small modifications here and there. Health and safety management system can improve our performance. You have to agree on that. You have to start believing on this. In real world, 3 reasons drives implementation of HS management system. What are those three reasons? Moral reasons, financial reasons, and legal reasons. Then system based on 3 principles and management system based on 4 elements. These are the principles of health and safety management. System based what? The leadership commitment, worker involvement, and thorough risk management, risk assessment. Then comes to the management component. Management component has 4 elements. Plan your work properly, do it to verify whether it is applicable, check for any gaps, and act immediately to close upon gaps. So those are the principles of HSE management system. So remember, this particular aspect is definitely a question in your final exam or even in your interim exams. The principles of HS management is a must, right? So 2 elements, altogether 6 components, 7 components. What are the 7 components? The 3 principles comes in the system: leadership, worker involvement, risk assessment. Then the management system has 4 elements: plan, do, check, act. In simple jargon, it says PDCA: plan, do, check, act. Okay, right. Then remember, key roles has been defined. Why they have responsibilities. Employer has responsibilities, employees has responsibilities, health and safety representative has responsibilities, supervisors has responsibilities. Workers has rights. In general, you will see that only workers has rights, all the others responsibilities. Right. So with that, we are coming to the end of the session here, online session for the time being. We are going to wind up after this. Okay, just before you wind up, I want to let you know what you are going to do until 11x program starts next. There will be some assignments. These assignments should be completed and submitted within 3 days to my official email address, info@gistservices.com. GISTSERVICS, gistservices.com. If you have any questions in completing these assignments within this period, maybe you can still use this very same email address to send your clarifications also. So I can reply you either by through mobile phone or by email. So remember, when you are sending your mails to my address, do remember to indicate your mobile phone contact number. Assignment number 1. What are the supply chain activities involved in your own activity? Now here, what I am mentioning about is you have to select some kind of a supply chain related activity known to you. May not be your own one, but it could be coming from any of your family members, any of the businesses what you have seen. You can select anything of your like. If you like about confectionery industry, you select an example from the confectionery industry. If you like fabrics, garment industry, select that one. If you like construction industry, go for that. If you're willing to do some studies about the automobile engineering or vehicle assembling or anything, select that one. There's no problem with that. As long as supply chain activity is being assessed. So what you're supposed to do is, what are the supply chain activities involved in your own activity? Now here when I say own activity, it refers to the activity what I have mentioned about. Say as an example, you go for the construction industry. When it comes to the construction industry, so many things are happening within that. But to support that main activity, there will be so many supply chain related activities. What I wanted you to understand is the flow of things, starting from raw material, processing, production, warehousing, transportation, consumer, and recycling. That's the most important thing here. Any past incidents in that industry, whatever you know. Maybe a collapse of a platform, fire, sicknesses, theft, robberies, even those things are involved in this, right? So whatever the past incidents you know about your selected industry. Then what are the risks involved? Still we are talking about the same activity what you have selected, right? Then how the business is managing them. Whatever the industry that you have selected, you are talking about the past incidents. In the risk, why you are talking about the risk is to understand why that past incidents happened. Then in the fourth question we are asking how the business is managing them. Why that incident didn't happen in the day 1? Why it is happening after 3 years? Maybe there were some kind of controls within that, and maybe one of those controls failed, and that's why this incident is happening. So what are the controls in place to manage those risks? Then your assignment number 2. Name 3 reasons for HS management. Remember, you can refer to your slide pack. You can refer to your video if you can. There's no problem. What are the 3 main reasons for HS management? I have been highlighting this one over and over again for many a times. how working on these three reasons could improve your business. I have discussed this along with a lot of examples. Now it is the time for you to put that things what you learned into the paper. Then what are the compulsory, on-demand and volunteer standards and regulations to be followed? We talk about these things. We talk about compulsory regulations. What are on demand? On demand is one of your clients are asking you to comply with that one before you send your products or before you get involved with them. Those are on demand. Then volunteer standards. Now, there are certain set of standards what we discussed under the heading of moral reasons. We talk about volunteer standards also. The same set of standards. Some clients may demand for that one. In some companies, they can say nobody is asking for it, still I am doing that. So there is a set of standards like that also. So remember, when it comes to the moral standards, sometimes the client may demand, sometimes the person who's performing the task might opt to start following. Assignment number 3. As an employer, what responsibilities you have and how will you discharge them in your organization? We talk about the responsibilities of the employers. Please highlight them now, visualizing your own selected business activity in assignment number 1. Okay? Right. So that's it. So with this one, we are ending our session for the day. If you have any questions, any clarification required, please do contact me. I have already given the instructions on how to contact me. Thanks.